Okay, this is a demonstration of number 11 in section 11.1 on solving quadratic equations by completing the square. The equation is 18x squared plus 48x minus 17 equals 0. The first step when solving quadratic equations, which we have here, is to get your a, which is your x squared coefficient, and in this case it is 18, we have to get it to be a 1. So that's the first step. So to get that 18 to be a 1, we divide by 18. But whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side. So we divide every term here by 18. We get x squared, and then reduce 48 over 18. 18 divides by 6 3 times, and 48 divides by 6 8 times. And then minus 17 over 18, and 0 over 18 is 0. So this was the first step, to get the x squared coefficient to be 1 by dividing every term by the x squared coefficient. The second step is to get all the x terms on one side of the equation and the constant on the other. So I add 17 over 18, which is my constant, to both sides of the equation. Or you just change sides, change signs. When I bring 17 over 18 to the other side of the equation, it becomes positive. Changes to the opposite sign. So now I have x squared plus 8/3 x equals 17 over 18. Third step is a little more involved. You need to do something to your b, which is the coefficient of the x term. So in our case, it's the 8/3. That's our b. We need to divide that b, that 8/3, by 2, and then we need to square it. Well, divided by 2 is the same as timesing by a half, so I'm going to go on the side here. 8/3 times a half, and I get 8 over 6. 8 over 6 reduces to 4/3, so I do that first, and I square it. 4 times 4 is 16, 3 times 3 is 9, I have 16 over 9. Now I take that 16 over 9, and I add it to both sides of my equation here, that you see here. So in the second line, you see that I've added 16 over 9 to both sides of the equation. Then on the right side, I combine those two constant terms by multiplying 16 over 9 by 2 over 2, and I get 32 over 18. And then on the last line, 17 plus 32 is 49 over 18. The fourth step is to take the left side of the equation, where we've now, what has happened is we've completed the square by going b divided by 2 and squaring all that. We've created a quadratic equation on the left side, which is a perfect square. So we've completed the square. And the benefit of that is that we can factor it such that we get x plus 4/3 times x plus 4/3, which is just x plus 4/3 squared. Or what you can do is you can just take the 16 over 9, take the square root, that's 4 over 3, and go x plus 4 over 3 all squared. It's a quick way to factor a perfect square quadratic. So then, once we do that, we can apply the square root property to solve for x. We square root the left side, and we get x plus 4/3. Square root the right side, we get plus or minus the square root of 49 over 18. Bring the 4/3 to the other side and it changes signs. And then start to simplify the square root. Square root of 49 is 7. 18 is not a perfect square, so we leave it as square root of 18. 18 factorizes into 9 times 2, and the square root of the 9 is the 3. So that's how I get the 3 on the last line. And then the 2 is not a perfect square, so it remains under the square root symbol. So I factorized 18 as 9 times 2 and took the square root of 9 outside the square root. Now we don't want a square root in the denominator, so we, as a last step, we rationalize the denominator. We want to get rid of the square root of 2, so we multiply it by the square root of 2, which is squaring the square root. That undoes the square root. We have to do the same thing on the top. So we have 7 times the square root of 2 over 3 times 2, because square root of 2 squared is 2, so we have 2 times 3. So that leaves us with minus 4/3 plus or minus 6. So we have minus 4/3 plus or minus 7 square root 2 over 6. Now to combine those two terms, we make the 3 into a 6 by multiplying it by 2. Multiply the minus 4 also by 2, and we get minus 8 over 6. So we have minus 8 over 6 plus or minus 7 times the square root of 2 over 6, and that is our answer.